My full name is Jane Hughes, and I was born in Salt Lake City, November 7th, 1963, at LDS Hospital to Louis Henry Collister and Ellen Gannell Collister, and there's 7 of us. Mark Collister is the oldest, then Isabel, then me, then Edward, then David, and then the twins. My mom had twins at age 42, Anne and Andrew.
My name's Ryan Bradley Hughes, born in Sandy, Utah, to the parents of Gary Harold Hughes and Norleen Green Hughes. Grew up in Sandy for about 3 or 4 years, and then when I was 4 years old, we moved to the East Bench. My dad bought a house with a great view for $43,000 and moved into the, it's just next to Parley's Canyon. And I have 4 siblings, 5, I would be the 5th. I'm right in the middle. I have a brother, Randy Hughes, and I have a sister, Rhonda, Lucy, and then myself, and then Rochelle, and then my little brother, Mike.
My childhood home was a little dysfunctional, crazy, and had a lot of love all at the same time. We grew up in Federal Heights on Chandler Drive, and then moved to Tomahawk Drive. Every time we had more kids, we would move up the street into a different house, and my dad always took us on really nice vacations. I have so many memories of just traveling and going camping or to Hotel del Coronado, or just some really nice trips.
We moved to a house up on the hill when I was about 4 to 5 years old, and what I remember most about it is the view. We had a really beautiful view of the Salt Lake Valley, and we lived up on a big hill, and we would watch the cars try to get up in the winter and also try to get down in the winter. And we had a really great view of the mountains right next to the H Rock up on the East Bench of Salt Lake City. And I also remember we dug out a 3rd story in our home. We made it was a dirt cellar in the basement, and we were many years digging out the 3rd floor and then refinished it ourselves. But I lived in a really nice neighborhood. It was a cul-de-sac and had baseball games in the circle with dugouts, had a really good neighborhood, and had a really good childhood in the home. Nothing but good memories of our childhood home, and lived in that home until I went on a mission.
So my mom was basically a stay-at-home mom, but she went back and got her master's in history, and then she wanted to get her drug alcohol certificate and achieved that later because of some substance abuse issues in our family. She just wanted to learn more about that and be able to help others. So she did that later in life, and my dad was an attorney and practiced with my grandpa, Lou Sr., and basically was a very hard, devoted attorney, worked a lot of hours.
My dad did many things. My dad is my hero in many ways. He is very educated. He raised a family of 5, and he wasn't home a ton just because he was working 2 to 3 jobs. He worked as a professor at the University of Utah and ended up being the vice president of health and sciences, got his PhD and his doctorate degree in finance, and then also worked out at Kennecott Copper Mine part-time, And then as he was doing this, he picked up or acquired some apartments at the time. Well, and now seems really cheap, but at the time, it was really hard for him because he was working 2 jobs and picking up some rental property. My mother was a mother that stayed at home, but as I know now, that's not an easy job. And she was very, very, very supportive and went to every one of my siblings' dance recitals, ballet lessons, baseball games, basketball games. She never missed one. So had a really good memory of my childhood in that way. My hobbies, our family loves sports, so I love sports also. Played baseball for almost into high school, and same with basketball. And I went to football practice about the 3rd time. Kid about knocked me out, so then I was done with football. So anyway, but loved watching it, and still do today. And loved all sports and loved the outdoors. We had like I was telling you earlier, we had lived on a hill, so we could go right across the street in our cul-de-sac and go up the mountain. And we had a mini bike, we had a 4-wheeler, we had a snowmobile, and we would kind of sneak out of the house while my dad was working and head up the hill and putt around up in the mountains. So
growing up, I used to love to ride bikes around our neighborhood. I loved to play tennis. My mom would always send us to the BYU tennis camp, and that was a lot of fun. I have a lot of great memories of that. And I took up running later and have run a couple marathons and lots of half marathons. And I did the Hood to Coast, where you run 191-mile relay from Mount Hood to the Oregon coast, and that was pretty crazy experience. So no, I just had a lot of fun. I loved to, outdoors, hiking, bike riding, and tennis, and shopping. Like, to this day, I still like to shop. So my mom always, even though our family was crazy with 7 kids, she always made sure we had every opportunity we wanted, and I was able to take piano lessons. I had a very mean piano teacher, a German man named Mr. Heinke, and if we didn't practice, he would literally take a ruler and slap our hands. So I practiced and, was able to have that opportunity to play the piano. And then my mom would take us to ski school, and we were able to ski at a young age. Ed and I would be put in ski school where the older Mark and Isabel got to ski, and she just would sometimes sit in the lodge with the twins and Dave. And I just thought that was really great that we got that opportunity to learn how to ski. And also, I took ballet for many, many years, and she made sure I got there. A lot of times I had to wait. She was, 30 to 60 minutes late, sometimes picking me up, but it was a good opportunity. So I'm grateful for those lesson opportunities with piano, skiing, and ballet. My dad used to say, if you shake the family tree, bottles would fall, because we had substance abuse issues in our genetics. We have a little bit of Irish, and so it was a little crazy. I had 4 of the 7 siblings kind of struggled with substance abuse, and as a result, I lost my brother Ed in a car accident at age 32, and that was such a difficult thing for my family. It was a really big hardship, but came with so many blessings. We were able to start a foundation, the Edward Colster Foundation, to help other people that were struggling with addiction at a young age. Things such as adult, ADD, and just to prevent a lot of hardship for people. So that was a really good foundation and helped a lot of people.
One thing I really admired about my family and my dad and my mom is that he loved to take trips. And my dad is very, very, very frugal. But when it came to taking family trips, that was one of the main things that he loved to do. So we really traveled around the world with my dad. A lot of times it was without air conditioning, as that was an option buying a car back then. And we never bought air conditioning. And we drove in a van in the middle of the summer down to Guaymas, Mexico. And we were all trying to put our hands in the ice box to try to keep refreshed. And anyway, that continued. But we took like a ton of wonderful family trips. And we had a Chevrolet van and a station wagon, and we piled in and took trips all around the country. I've been all around the United States and into Mexico, into Canada, everything with my parents growing up. We didn't fly a lot, but we drove everywhere, and it was really important to my dad and my mom to have the kids travel around and see different historic sites or national parks, etc. We also have a tradition at my house. We actually started going with my cousins, the Greens, when I was about 7 years old. So today I'm 59. So for 52 years now, we've been traveling to Newport Beach, and we would rent a beach house in the summer for 1 week, and we would all pile in a 2-3 bedroom, and we'd be on the floor. We wouldn't necessarily have a bed, but we loved that trip, and we continue that tradition today as we love going to the beach. And we also have been going to Jackson Hole, Wyoming for about as long. And like I said before, my dad, he loved to travel, and he loved to take his family on trips, which was one of the most enjoyable things of my childhood also.
So I went to Wasatch Elementary School, and it's still there now. Then I went to Bryant Junior High. To back up, I went in 6th grade. My mom and dad didn't like the fact that the gym teacher was going to be our teacher, so they sent us to Cardin Memorial, a private school, for 2 years. So Ed and I did that. And then I went to Bryant Junior High, and then to East High, and East High had freshmen. So I was at East High for 4 years.
I went to elementary school at Beacon Heights Elementary. That was down just below Foothill Boulevard, so it was a little bit of a challenge to get there. We didn't have a bus, but I also walked just a couple miles away a lot, or was driven to school. Nothing but good memories of Beacon Heights. From there, right next door was our intermediate school. It was Hillside Junior High, and had a really good experience there. And then from there, went to Highland High School. Matter of fact, just had my 40-year graduation, or 40-year reunion last night. And so, fresh on my mind of all my classmates, and just as I think about schooling, I had a really good experience in all my schools. One thing I don't like is I hear about bullying in school, and it drives me crazy. And I look back at my schooling, and I neither was a bully nor was bullied, and I really enjoyed my my elementary, my intermediate, and my high school experience. I mean, in elementary and intermediate, we would always go to school early and play basketball on the playground. We would always be there for recess, etc., flag football out on the football field. And then when I started going to high school, I played some sports for a few years, but was never really that great to continue on later in my high school years. But in the social part of it was, we had a group that was called the Highland Associated Men, where we had to try out. I tried out, and me and a couple of my best friends were the ham officers, they called it. John Judkins, president, me, and then Jim Divers. And so I spent a lot of time doing that, and spent a lot of time kind of goofing around. I didn't take high school as serious as I probably should have, now that you look back. But I totally don't regret everything that happened there. We had a really good time. It was really good, kind of a social event for me, but also learned a lot and learned a lot about life, and learned a lot about schooling. So anyway, like I mentioned before, we had skits for our Highland Associated Men's group, and I actually, at the time, Howard Hughes had died, and was a big media event about his will and his controversy about how he passed away. And so I did the Hughes will. And so anyway, that was my slogan. And anyway, I had all the football players carry me out in a casket, and brought out a will, a testament and will of what I was going to do to make Highland a better place, and make the Highland Men's Club a better club, and etc. So, and anyway, I barely slipped by with a win, so it was fun.
So after I graduated from East High, all my friends were going to the University of Utah, and they were all going to join the same sorority. And I wanted to do something different. So I decided to go to Utah State. I also wanted to experience being more independent and living on my own. So I went up to Utah State, didn't even know my roommate, but I loved her. I love her to this day. I decided I'd already had a plan. I was going to go to Utah State for a year, and then I always wanted to go to law school, but I was introduced to a court reporter by my dad in high school, and I decided that was a career that really interested me, because I loved to I was a people watcher, and I loved to, I was nosy. I kind of wanted to know what was going on. And it's the perfect career, because you can, in a deposition setting, you can, you're the one writing every word down like this on those little machines that you see on TV, and you can stare at people all you want, and it's just really interesting. There's never a day or a deposition that's the same. You learn a little bit about everything, and I particularly have loved doing medical malpractice, and I've done that for about 31 years. So I went to Utah State for a year, and then I went to Denver to go to this court reporting school, thinking it would just be a 2-year program. Well, it's pretty difficult, and I didn't realize there was a 90% dropout rate, and the test was very difficult. You had to get 97.5% to pass. So anyway, it took me about 4 years, twice as long as I had thought, but I ended up moving from Denver and coming back here and finishing, and I'm just very stubborn, and I never gave up, and it's been a huge blessing in my life. I've loved almost everything about it. And I didn't go to law school. To back up, I didn't go to law school because I wanted to raise a family. I wanted to be a mom and have a career, and court reporting has provided me the opportunity to do that. And so I've been very lucky.
After high school, I felt that it was a good thing to, as we grew up in the LDS Church, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, we had the opportunity to serve a mission, which is, in my case, at the time, with the economy, they changed the missions from 2 years to 18 months. So I went on an 18-month mission, and I got called to the Indianapolis mission, and it was, I just would say that it was a really great experience for me. I was very homesick. It was really hard for me to go away from home because I'm very tender-hearted deep down. And anyway, I went on a mission. I served in the city of Indianapolis. Then I went up to Goshen, Indiana, where they make RVs, and was the cruising capital in the world. And then I went to Bloomington, where Indiana University was, and Bobby Knight was a big coach there at the time. This is back in 1982. And excuse me. And then I went to Anderson, Indiana, and finished my mission up there. I had a really good experience on my mission. I had some hard companions, but also had some really good experiences. And we also had a mission president that was fairly soft in my mind, and we actually enjoyed our missions a lot. We got to do a lot of things, and we got to go to a lot of sporting events other than religious things also. So it was hard. It was one of the hardest things I've probably done, but it was most rewarding. But I never regret going on a mission to Indiana. It's been 40 years since I've been on this mission. I'm just going to try to do this for you. From the farm, from the city, from the very mountaintops to the Indiana mission we've come with a message of truth for all people on the earth, for we know that our work is never done. A marvelous work, a wonder we will do in teaching the gospel of our Lord. We'll find lost sheep and bring them in the fold, and the mission will roll right along. Up at 6, out by 9, pray and study all the time, and the mission will roll right along. Okay, that's going to be about it. I still can remember my Indiana mission song. So after I got home from my mission, I went to Salt Lake Community College for 2 years. Graduated with an associate's degree there. I also got a mechanics license that was a 2-year degree on top of that. And then I was finishing up on my bachelor's degree, and I was working at UPS and Western Airlines and finishing college. And I kind of had to make a choice. They were two good companies. I always had the desire to go into police work and possibly be a police officer or something in that field. But as I got on with Western Airlines, I was able to travel the world for free. So part of the benefit package was you could fly anywhere the airline flew for nothing. And in a way that was kind of bad, because it kind of socked you in. It kind of sucked you in. It kind of made it so it was hard to leave. And that's kind of the way I feel about it. But it also, I felt like I probably could have had the opportunity to do a lot of other things. But I also don't regret it, because it gave my family an opportunity to travel around the world. All over the world, where if I hadn't worked there, I probably wouldn't have had that opportunity. So after getting home from my mission, I chose to work at Western Airlines. That was back in 1985, October 14th, 1985. And I've stayed with the airlines ever since. And to today's date, it's almost 37 years. And Western Airlines, Delta Airlines bought Western Airlines, so it's now Delta Airlines, and I've worked a lot of different jobs, but I work in the operations tower, and I'm also currently the FAA liaison between the Delta Airlines and the FAA tower. Actually, we met through a friend of mine, Jim Divers, he was friends with Jane and Liz Middleton, and he had told me a lot about Jane and them doing stuff together. We are neighboring high schools, so a lot of our friends mixed from one high school to the next, East High and Highland High. And so anyway, I was sitting at the McDonald's, and at the stop sign, I see this bright orange Scout, International Scout, drive by with this beautiful girl's blonde hair flowing in the wind. And I'm like, wow, is that Jane Collister? And I'm like, I gotta meet this gal. So I was thinking that that was the gal that Divers had been hanging out with. So I called him up and talked about him, and we eventually went out on a first date. And the funny thing about our first date is I drove a Monte Carlo, kind of a 1973 Monte Carlo, and we went to Jeff Judkins, who was kind of a local hero in sports. He went to his softball games. They were our neighbors, and his brother was my best friend at the time. And so anyway, I called Jane up very nervously, and I said, hey, do you want to go to a softball game tonight for the first date? And we went to Jeff Judkins' softball game, and my car stalled, and it never stalls. And it stalled, and I couldn't get it started for like about 10 to 12 minutes. It was very uncomfortable. But anyway, it was a really fun first date. And then I'll let Jane take you through the rest of it.
So the way I met Jim Divers is through Steve Wong, but my friend Liz and I were riding our bikes home from the tennis club, and they fire extinguished us. That was kind of it was a crazy thing to do. They would come pull up alongside the car with a big fire extinguisher and just drench you in water. So they did that and drove off, and then came back and apologized, and that's kind of how we got to meet. I got to meet Divers, and then I was so excited when Ryan asked me out, because I always thought he was really cute, and it was it was a lot of fun. He was scared of my older brothers, and I would catch him cruising by my house and with his friends. But anyway, we had a lot of fun. We dated about most of our junior year, and then we broke up a little bit during our senior year, because Dad wanted, to get ready for his mission, and we kind of wanted to, not be serious when he went on his mission, date other people. But turns out we were broken up for a couple of months. We got back together. I went away to Utah State. Dad went on his mission in September, and we wrote the whole time during his mission, stayed really close. I went to court reporting school in Denver, came home.
Jane dated a lot.
And I dated a little bit, but nobody was as great as Rylos. We call him Rylos now. Yeah. Okay, so I think we have one of the best, most creative engagement stories of all time. We used to love on our dates to go on ride-alongs with the Salt Lake City Police Department, and so we kind of got to know a lot of the police officers. And my brother Eddie, who I've already talked about, he would get into trouble on occasion. And so I remember the night I was proposed to, we were driving down Ryan Street, and I looked behind, and there's flashing lights. And I was like, what? Were you speeding? What's going on? So we got pulled over by a Salt Lake police officer, and he comes over to the car, and he said, are you Jane Collister? Your brother Eddie has been in trouble. He's in jail. I think he said he's in jail. I'm pretty sure he said he's in jail. And so I was just panicking. And then he took the ring and gave it to Dad, and Dad proposed that way. So
Real romantic, huh?
Do you want to add to that?
No, that's kind of the way it went down. So after our engagement, we were excited to be married August 30th, 1985.
You
And
remembered.
yeah, I remembered. The greatest day of my life. Anyway, and we had a really great wedding. Um, we had it up at Jane's parents' house, the reception. We were married in the Salt Lake Temple, and then had a really great reception at Jane's parents' house. They lived on Tomahawk Drive, up kind of by the U on the mountain. And anyway, things went really well. And as I spoke earlier, we lived in a couple of Gary's apartments, and they were some real. I don't, we took Jane out of like a country club kind of lifestyle, and I got to give her all the credit in the world that she was able to live with me in a little one bedroom with spider webs and old paint, and we fixed it up a little bit and lived in a little basement apartment at 135 B Street. Anyway, from there we progressed.
Called it the cave.
Yeah, we called it the cave. It was this really, really small place, and I mean, like I say, I tip my hat to my lovely wife for being able to live there, because it's not easy. I've never seen any of my children even live in a place close to it. So anyway,
Well,
after that we
can I just interject one
Sure.
thing? So we went to Mazatlan on our honeymoon, and we had prepaid for everything before, and went to a Mardi Gras, and Dad got violently ill, like food poisoning, throwing up, and I was like, what am I supposed to do with this guy? I was, he was in the shower, nude on the floor, just vomiting. And so I tried to help him, and then I, put him in bed and went out to the beach because I
Yeah.
thought,
And so I spent the next 2 days looking out the room view window at Jane visiting with other couples out there swimming. And yeah, it was,
I figured there was nothing I could do staying in the room. So I helped you the best I could. And then you were basically just out of commission, and I didn't want to let the beach go to waste. So yeah. And then I remember, this is very funny, you might have forgotten, but I remember coming home, and, like I said, we were living in this little apartment called the cave. It was kind of a,
it was a
little bit of a
dump hole.
dump. It was. And I remember we were both homesick the first night, like missing our families, we were so excited to be married and loved each other, and we're excited, to start our life together. But it was an adjustment, and honestly, we were both a little homesick.
Yeah, and it
So,
was
yeah.
no country club or anything near it.
Yeah, wow.
Anyway, so after the honeymoon was done, we both worked really hard, and I kind of talked about that. We've always, I felt like, been really hard workers. And I made that choice to go with Western Airlines as I was doing schoolwork, and Jane was finishing up her court reporting, getting her speed up to pass the Utah test. And so just a fast forward kind of to when we first had our first child, I would say that as I was working at Delta Airlines, I had the opportunity to move to Kansas City, Missouri, to get a little bit better job, and Jane was a really good sport about it. And the other thing I was going to tell you, it was as the time went on and apartments came opened, we upgraded to better apartments of my father's, my dad. So whenever a bigger and better apartment opened up, we would move into it. So things got better. We only stayed in the cave for like 3 months, and
True.
then we moved into another place. But anyway, and then we moved to Kansas City, Missouri. That was in 1990. I'll always remember that because our first son, Michael, was born in Kansas City on 1/9/90, January 9th, 1990. And Jane got a job being an official court reporter, which was a really, really good experience for her, as she kind of had to work real hard to have this big court reporting firm take her on as a brand new court reporter. And she was very resilient and very determined to make it work, and it did work, and she gained a lot of really valuable experience there.
Can I interject? This was in the day before MapQuest or any, we didn't have cell phones. And so I had to look at a map to try to drive all over Kansas City to get to all my depositions. And that was super stressful. And moving, I was pregnant with Michael, sick as a dog. We moved by ourselves, drove all the way from Salt Lake to Kansas City. And I remember Al helped us. So after Kansas City, we were there for about 2.5 years, and then we moved back to Salt Lake, back to Utah, and bought our first house, 1951 East Garfield Avenue, just a really small but really cute house in Sugar House. And Sarah was born in that house. And then
House cost $78,000 with a 9.7% interest rate.
So Sarah was born in that house. We lived there for about 3 years, and then we decided we wanted a little bigger house, so we had to move. We couldn't afford a bigger house in the Sugar House area, so we decided to move to Bountiful, which was totally out of our comfort zone, because our families lived in Salt Lake, and all our friends were still kind of in that same area. So we moved to Bountiful, and Alexi was born in our Bountiful house. And then Eddie's accident happened, and we decided the house we were in, the street was too busy, and there was a house in the street, a more quiet street on Huntington Drive. And so we were able to get into that house, and that is the house that we are still in today. That is this house. And I think most of our kids only remember this house.
I think one of the hardest things that we had to deal with as a couple is when Edward was killed in a car accident. And that was kind of the biggest event that's happened in our life besides having our beautiful children. So
He was exactly 13 months younger than I. So we kind of grew up together. We were best friends. And at age 31, he was killed in a car accident. He kind of struggled with substance abuse. He did everything he could to overcome it. Treatment centers, and went in served in the United States Coast Guard, and was just an amazing football player, very, very brilliant person, and just could never overcome substance abuse. He got into cocaine in high school and actually went to Utah State, played football for Utah State, and didn't have the best influences, got a little bit more into cocaine up there. So anyway, he was in this car accident, but I will never forget it. It happened 10 days after Alexi was born. And Alexi was my hardest. She was my youngest and my hardest birth. She was an emergency C-section, and Eddie and his girlfriend Suzanne were at the hospital the whole entire time. They had started my labor. It was about 24 hours long, and Eddie was kind of yelling at the nurse, trying to really be my advocate. And then that whole day I kept saying, I am just craving a Big Mac and some McDonald's French fries, because they don't let you eat. And so after my emergency cesarean, the next day Eddie came to visit me with a bag of McDonald's French fries and a Big Mac, and I was on a clear liquid diet. I couldn't even eat it, but it was so sweet. And that was just how Eddie was. And then 10 days later, gosh, it's been 26 years, but 10 days later, I remember my dad calling us at 3 a.m. and saying that, Eddie had been in a car accident, and luckily it was a single car rollover. He didn't hurt anybody, because he had been coming home from Wendover, and he had been drinking that night. And we're just so grateful that, he didn't hurt anyone else, but he Alexi, was 10 days old, and he'd come to visit us all the time, was always bringing candy for my kids. And I remember going for a ride, right? This is the last time I ever saw him, and he knew because of his substance abuse that he couldn't probably have a family and have kids and marry his girlfriend because he struggled so much with it. And he looked at me in that car ride and said, "You are so lucky because you've got these three beautiful, healthy, darling kids and a great husband and a great family, and that's probably something I'll never have." And then 3 days later, it's when the accident happened and he was gone. So that has been really a really hard thing, but a lot of tender mercies have happened. We were able to do his temple work, and like I mentioned before, start this Edward Hollister Foundation. So it's been a lot of good things that have come from it also.
So, as we kind of settled into our new house in Bountiful, our kids grew up fast. We decided, as I was working at Delta Airlines, that we would continue to travel, and as both of our parents kind of in our childhood traveled a lot, so we continued on with that tradition. And we had the opportunity to travel to Australia for Christmas. We traveled to Europe, Italy. My brother lived in Naples, Italy, so we traveled there. Traveled really,
Dubai.
yeah, Dubai,
Right.
United Arab Emirates. My brother lived there, so all the kids were able to travel to Dubai and the Middle East. And anyway, and feel free to chimper in, but we traveled really quite a few places. Jane's parents had a property in Tofino, Canada. Went there every year. Um, Enjoyed traveling with her parents to Hawaii as the kids were growing up.
Moab.
And they also bought a house in Moab and spent a lot of time in Moab.
I feel like we just had a really fun time with our three kids traveling and doing a lot of things. We were very lucky because of the Delta airline benefits to hop on an airplane for free. And we used to always joke that we're raising these blue bloods because we used to be able to go first class a lot, and thought, oh, what are we doing? We flew first class to Australia, and that was quite the experience. But um, we're just joking about raising these kids flying first class. But we really just had a lot of good years. Everybody talks about grounding their kids in timeouts, and I honestly feel like our Michael, Alexi, and Sarah were all very well-behaved, obedient kids, and it's nothing that we did. They just kind of came that way. Um, each had their own personality, definitely, but I don't remember many times having to really discipline them. They were very easy to raise, and I feel that we are very, very lucky to this day. They're all still active in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. They've married great spouses, and my heart is just very full. I feel like, we're very lucky to have such wonderful kids that have grown into independent, hardworking adults.
Jane mentioned grandkids, so like she said, I would ditto the answer that we had really good kids, and I think they had really good experiences in high school and in elementary and intermediate schools here in Davis County and Bountiful. And I think that they were raised in a really nice area, and that they all established really good friendships with good friends, and they still keep in contact with them today. So we're really grateful for that, and grateful for each one of them. And as we go through life, that's our most important thing, is our beautiful children, and love them so much. I would also say they brought us the joy of being grandparents, and Sarah brought the first grandchild into our life, was Luke. Luke Lundeen was born in Las Vegas, Nevada. I say Las Vegas, it's actually Henderson, but Luke Lundeen from Las Vegas, Nevada. A very cute little boy who's continues to grow, and we love him so much. And then Michael had Harlow, who was she born in Boston?
No, Sumner was born in
Okay, so
Boston.
Harlow Hughes, and I mean, each one of our grandkids, you couldn't say enough about them. We love them all so much. And so Michael had Harlow, and she's quite similar in age to Luke. And then Sarah had Lucy, and then Michael had Sumner, and he was 2 years in Boston for his job. And Sumner was born in Boston. And then Sarah's had Annie. Our kids are our greatest legacy, and our grandkids, and there's nothing we wouldn't do for each and every one of them. We're concluding this interview right now. I'm grateful for Sarah to do it. We have hopefully a lot of years to live. I'm 59 years old. Jane's or 58 years old. Going to be 59 in a couple months. Jane's the same. And I would just like to say that we look forward to a lot of great years with our kids. And I would say that I like to live life to its fullest. I'm a news junkie, and as I watch the news, there's a lot of terrible things going on in the world at this time. And I'm grateful for the gospel of Jesus Christ to help us have a game plan on how we want to live our lives, to be good examples, to be honest, to be good people to everyone we come amongst, everyone we join up with, everyone we come in contact with. So that's one thing that I would like to leave on to my kids, is trying to be a good example, and also trying to live life to its fullest. Live life full every day like it's your last day, because you just never know. And we're hoping that we will have many days to live with them and to enjoy with them, because they're the joy of our life. Jane?
And I love that. That, I think, live life to the fullest, because you never know what's going to happen. And I've learned in my 58 and a half years that life is tricky, but life is also, there's so much good in life. And I want my posterity to know how much I love my Savior, Jesus Christ, and what a strong testimony I have of His love for us. He loves all of us so much, and that is the getting a little spiritual here. The Book of Mormon is so important, and being able to serve others, and I've had the privilege to work in the Bountiful Temple, and I just treasure that time every week. And I want my posterity to know that no matter what happens in life, that if you have a close relationship with the Savior, that you will get through anything. And one of my favorite sayings that comes from the Alcoholics Anonymous Serenity Prayer, and that is, let go and let God. And also, when the going gets tough, the tough get going, and that you can do anything you set your mind to, and just never give up.
And Sarah, thanks for doing this.
And Sarah,
my favorite memory of Mom and Dad is traveling. So growing up, we went to all sorts of places. We went to Europe, we went to Dubai, we went to Australia. Because of Dad's job at Delta Airlines, we had the opportunity to travel for free. And so my favorite memory is getting out of school, or during the summer going on vacation and spending time together as the family, or with the family. Dad's taught me how to work hard. Dad's always worked hard at Delta. I remember growing up, he often would have a graveyard shift, and very rarely complained. Right now, he also works at the Marriott. When I was a little bit younger, he did a house appraising on the side. And then just like all the other like rental properties and the Hughes family apartments. Like Dad has always just been a super hard worker and has just taught me, through his example of what his work ethic is. And then mom's really like increased my testimony and taught me about the gospel. Mom's always been a very spiritual person, and like recently I remember when she like fell and hurt her wrist and couldn't work as much, she was able to go and start working at the temple. And what I love about Mom is she's always telling me about her experiences in the temple, or she's sending us encouraging messages from her scripture study. So Mom's taught me how important the gospel is.
My favorite memories are probably have to do with traveling. I only remember maybe once that they went by themselves and left the kids home. And I'm so grateful that they always took us with them, and we traveled all around the world as a family. And I just have the best memories. I feel like we bonded so much as we were traveling as a family, and we just had the best time. We were always laughing, and whether we were walking by the Opera House in Australia or watching the twinkling Eiffel Tower in Paris while eating crepes and gelato, or finding every Pizza Express in Italy and eating pizza for every meal, or just so many memories just all around the world. And my two favorite places on earth are places that we would go to every summer, and that's Newport Beach and Jackson Hole, and I love it there. I just feel like we had so many fun times in Newport every summer as a family and with our cousins, and Jackson Hole as well, camping at Coulter Bay and doing the fishing pond, and we just had the best time traveling as a family. And I'm so grateful that my parents always took us with them, and we always created so many memories as a family, laughing. And I do remember one time, I don't even remember where we were, but I remember driving downtown, and Mom would roll down the window, and there would be people in the corner, and she'd just start like coughing or gagging, and they would kind of look at us like, oh, like kind of in a panic. And then we would drive away and just start laughing and then do it again. And it was just funny. We were always laughing, always making our own fun. And I'm so grateful to my parents for providing us with opportunities to travel. And also, when I think of my childhood, I feel like I had the best childhood ever. They were always welcoming people into our home, our friends. They were always letting us do things with our friends. I remember just playing outside all the time, playing night games and doing fun things as a family. And I just feel so grateful and lucky that I had such a good childhood, and that's all because of my parents and what they provided for us and the area that they put us in to make friends and the decisions that they made. So I'm so grateful for that. And another thing that I always remember is that they always supported me in anything I did, whether it was cheerleading or tumbling, dance, tennis. They were always there, and they were always watching me, supporting me, taking me to lessons. And I am so grateful for that, because it has totally played a huge part in my life and to where I am today. So I just have the best memories with my parents and with my family. Okay, the most important things that my parents have taught me. And this is a hard question because I feel like they have taught me everything that I know. They shaped the person that I am today, and I feel like I remember them using words and teaching me and talking to me, but their examples speak way louder than words. And I just remember growing up, they always worked so hard, and I remember going on appraising jobs with my dad and holding the tape measure, and I remember he was always working so hard at Delta, and my mom was always working so hard as well, and got her education and her training so that she could help provide as well. And they just always taught me that you have to work hard to get what you want, and you're not just going to be given stuff, you have to work hard. And they always emphasized getting a good education, and that was always something that I just had in my plan, that I was going to go to school and go to college and get an education. And I am just grateful that they taught me that, and that was just instilled in me at a young age. And something else that they've taught me is just to be kind and to be a good person. And this is something that I just remember my mom, whenever something would happen in the neighborhood or with her friend, she was always like the first person there. We would take Papa Murphy's pizza to them for dinner, and she was just always serving, always looking for ways to reach out to others. And also my dad as well, he's always looking around him and opening a door for someone that can't do it themselves, or they're both always paying for people that maybe can't, that don't have enough money, or they're just always looking for ways to serve. And we would always do Sub for Santas growing up, and I'm just so grateful. And they're always just making people feel loved and always so kind. I remember my mom was always known as like the nicest person with all my friends, and also my dad as well. Everyone loved my dad, and my friends just loved my parents. And someone told me once that someone was going to marry me just because they wanted Rylos as their father-in-law. So that, if that says anything, but they always taught me to work hard, get a good education, be a good person, be kind to others. And I just remember my dad, he would always flag down people in the neighborhood and chat with them and always wave to people. Or if there was maybe someone that he didn't know in the neighborhood, he would stop and talk to them and just be kind. And they were just always so kind to everyone. And my mom was always making friends everywhere we went, on the airplane, in the airports, everywhere. She was always making new best friends everywhere she went. And I just love that example that they set for us. And it's amazing. I was thinking about this question, and it's amazing how much they've taught me, and the decisions that they made in their life that have just affected my life for sure, and my kids' life, and generations to come. And it's amazing how different decisions just affect generations to come. And I'm so grateful for my parents for making good decisions in their life, and so that I could be here today, and I could know the things that I know and have a testimony of the gospel of Jesus Christ. And something else that they taught me, I mean, they taught me everything that I know, honestly, but basically those are the big things that really stand out to me, is working hard, being kind, being a good person, and that life is just so short. So just don't dwell on the things that don't matter, and just focus on the things that do. So
I have a lot of favorite memories with my parents. A lot of them being associated with traveling growing up. We had the opportunity to visit a lot of places and spend a lot of time together. More recently, I would say when we are in the Tetons, we go together and search for bears, and that's been such a good time. We waited for like 3 days straight for our 399 to come out of her den, and just being able to spend time in the mountains and looking at wildlife. It's been such a good memory. Also with my dad in particular, growing up, going to sporting events and chasing like fire engines to find out where the action is. Also with my mom, I would say like going shopping and going to lunch. And when she would pick me up from school, a lot of times we would get a treat, or she'd already have like an after school snack waiting for me. My parents have both taught me a lot of things, and lessons. My dad in particular has taught me how to manage like finances and how to be be financially stable yet enjoy life, and also how to work hard but play hard. At times he had like 3 jobs, and yet we still had a lot of fun on trips and things. And my mom taught me the importance of serving others by always being the first to take someone dinner after they had a baby or after they lost a loved one, and always being someone to look out for those who are in need and helping them, and being very selfless and always giving of her time and talents to bless the life of others.
Thanks, Mom and Dad. Love you. Thanks for everything that you do, not only for me and my family, for my kids. We just love you, and we appreciate the time we get to spend with you.
And I just want to say I love you, Mom and Dad. Thank you for all that you have done for me and for my family and now my kids. You guys are the best parents and grandparents, and we are so grateful for all that you have done for me throughout my life and still continue to do today. And I just feel so blessed to have you guys as my parents, and I love you so much.
I love you, Mom and Dad. Thank you for all that you've done for me, all the opportunities that you've provided me with, and all of the unconditional love that you've given me.